Before I took the SAT, my whole family got granulocytic leukemia. Zachary was the only one who could secure the special medicine needed for their treatment. I begged him for a long time. In the end, he agreed to find a way for me. But he disappeared suddenly, causing my whole family to miss the best time to take medication. In the end, they all died. The next day, his first love posted a vlog of the two of them being clingy to each other sweetly on Twitter. The caption read, "Wherever you are is my home. You and I are each other's the only one." My friends all wanted to comfort me, but I applauded and blessed them. I commented, "You are a perfect match and you will be bounded together forever." I numbly dealt with the funerals of my family. Acute leukemia and complications caused by a chemical leakage made me lose all my family members overnight. Zachary knew how dangerous it would be once one was inflicted with such a disease. But he chose to leave me and my family behind for his first love. In the past 6 years, Eileen Solomon used countless excuses, including that she was afraid of the darkness, she was getting hurt, and she was feeling sad when watching movies from before, that she wanted to see Zachary. Her excuses were getting more and more ridiculous, but she could always take Zachary away from me easily. I didn't know what her excuse this time was, and I didn't have the energy to investigate it. The fact that more than 10 people had been deceased because of Zachary made me hate him forever. After dealing with everything, I stood in front of their graves in a daze. It seemed that there was a huge black hole in my heart, which nothing could fill. I didn't know how long I had been standing there. Only after my legs became numb did I realize that I had to go home. I packed up everything and planned to leave. Then I saw Zachary walking over with Eileen in his arms. "Zachary, this place is so beautiful. Lucy will like it, right?" Eileen leaned her head on his shoulder. They were intimate and ambiguous. Zachary didn't expect I would be here. A trace of impatience naturally appeared on his face. He said, "Sienna, are you being clingy again? Is it because I didn't answer your call?" Judging from his tone, he seemed to imply that I shouldn't be here and that I was causing trouble. Eileen looked up. Her face turned pale. With tears on her face, she held onto Zachary's waist tighter. She pitifully said, "Sienna, I'm so sorry. My dog got sick a few days ago. I was so anxious." Zachary didn't go home because he was taking care of me. Later, my dog passed away. I was devastated. Zachary took me abroad to relax myself. He didn't intentionally ignore your calls. Whenever I heard his cell phone ring, I couldn't help but cry. He did it to accommodate me. I knew about Eileen's dog. She adopted a stray dog less than a week ago. So, this is the reason why Zachary abandoned me without any hesitation. I suddenly felt it was so ironic and funny. My whole family was waiting for a chance to survive. He mercilessly took these opportunities away from them to please his previous sweetheart. Feeling mentally and physically exhausted, I said, "Zachary, let's break up." During the chemical leak, the elderly and the weak family members quickly passed away due to the complications. But my parents and my brother had a chance to survive. According to the doctor, there was indeed a specific medicine for this disease, but it was not only expensive but also hard to obtain. After all, it was not in abundant supply. I cried and begged Zachary for help, asking him to think of a solution for me. Zachary agreed. He agreed. Then he suddenly disappeared. I went crazy looking for him those days, but there was no trace of him. My family members missed the best time to take medication. When my parents died in front of me, all the love I had for him was gone. I didn't even have any hatred against him. I was indifferent to him, and I was disgusted with him. But Zachary thought that I was being stubborn now. He said, "Sienna, can't you be as sensible as Eileen? Her dog is like family to her. When her family died, she was so sad. How can I not accompany her? I didn't answer your call. That's all. Is it necessary for you to react so strongly? Can't you be as sensible as Eileen?" I should be as sensible as Eileen. Zachary always says so to me. Why do I have to be like her? Why do I have to be sensible in his way? Zachary said they grew up together since childhood. Because of their sibling bond, they can't be separated. So, I must allow Eileen to be involved in our relationship, right? I can't be jealous of Eileen. I must tolerate Eileen taking all his care and love from me. I must tolerate Eileen easily taking away my lover with a phone call or a text message. I must tolerate Eileen doing all kinds of things that go beyond the boundaries between family members. Fine. I'll be sensible. I won't ask him anything. I won't mind, but what do I get in return? They demand things from me and hurt me endlessly. I've had enough of a life like this. I sneered and looked at Zachary indifferently. I said, "As for what you want to do in the future and where you want to go, it has nothing to do with me anymore. From today on, we will never see each other again. After saying that, I wanted to leave directly. Zachary noticed that something was wrong with me. He grabbed my hand urgently and said, "Is it because your family is giving you a hard time? I can explain it to them." Suddenly, I felt that I was indeed out of my mind to fall in love with such a person. He wouldn't have said such absurd and foolish things if he had been willing to return my call or message, or even ask his friend about the details in these past few days. I forcefully shook off his hand, saying, "No need. For so many years, I have always been gentle, obedient, careful, and well-behaved to please Zachary. I would never be cold and indifferent like I am now." At that moment, Zachary was a bit flustered. He realized that I wasn't just saying it. He knew that I would indeed leave. "Sienna?" Zachary wanted to come up and pull me, but Eileen stopped him. Eileen sneered at me. She said, "It was your greedy relatives who wanted more. What does it have to do with Zachary? Chemical leakage? Acute leukemia? More than 10 family members of yours are inflicted with illnesses consecutively, and they need such expensive special medicine? How could such a series of coincidences happen? They are pretending to be sick, trying to cheat money out of Zachary." I turned back to look at Eileen in disbelief. Eileen provocatively looked at me. She was implying that I was a gold digger. I slapped Eileen hard across her face. Zachary's face changed. As usual, he protected Eileen behind him. He looked guarded, saying indifferently, "Sienna, apologize to Eileen." With my eyes red, I stared fiercely at Eileen. I said, "Watch your mouth. You're the dirty one. Don't think everyone else is as dirty as you." Eileen covered her face and said grievously, "What's wrong with me? Did I say something wrong? What you said is impossible in the first place, right? Zachary, don't you think so too?" I looked at Zachary incredulously and asked, "So, you also think I'm lying to you?" Zachary didn't answer, but I got the answer from his eyes. That's why he never went to the hospital. He refused to go to the ICU to witness the situation with his own eyes. Facing the photos and videos I sent him, he wasn't convinced. Before, I begged Zachary desperately for the special medicine. I even knelt. It turns out that he always treats me as a deceitful performer, treating me like a clown. Perhaps he thinks I'm a woman who will do anything for money, deep down. I've always known that Zachary looks down on me. He is the heir of the Foster family and the little young master, whom everyone pampers. I fell in love with him at first sight during a club activity at university. I chased after him for 4 years. I inquired about his preferences and changed my style. Knowing that he liked obedient and docile women, I acted humbly, followed the rules he set up for me, and took care of him in every way. I was so submissive.
Later, I met Eileen.
Only then did I realize that Zachary allowed others to break all his rules. Eileen can act cute and be willful. She can hug him and be naughty whenever she wants. She can directly express her dislikes. She can get angry if she doesn't want to do something. No matter what she does, he will compromise and spoil her unconditionally. She does everything that I desire, I expect, and I am not allowed to do so naturally. After being with Eileen for 6 years, I feel like I was just someone with the title of Zachary's girlfriend. I long to do things that other couples do, including being affectionate and hugging each other. He criticizes me for the simplest act of holding hands. He reminds me to be clear about my position. My position? So I, his girlfriend, am so insignificant that I am not allowed to hold his hands, right? In the eyes of others, Eileen is the one he cherishes and dotes on. He takes Eileen to various gatherings, helps her integrate into his social circle, and introduces her to everyone. But I never love him for his money. I am gentle, and I make compromises. I do so to get equal treatment I want from the man I love. But he thinks so poorly of me. I looked at Zachary with extreme disappointment. This is the man I have been in love with for 10 years. I must have been so love-struck that I beautify him into a god. Eileen covered her face and said, "Zachary, please help me have a check. My face hurts so much. Is it swollen? Ouch. Why is Sienna so mean to me?" Zachary immediately turned around to look at her. I hadn't eaten much these days. After all, I had been busy with the funeral. I didn't exert much force while slapping her. Eileen's face was a little red. There wouldn't be any other problems. Zachary had always put Eileen first. He was extremely nervous at the sight of any red marks on her face. Zachary's face changed. He said, "Sienna, apologize. Right now. Don't make me angry." Will he be angry? I used to be afraid of Zachary getting angry, fearing that he would ignore me and leave me. Now his emotions no longer mattered to me.
No.
We have broken up, Zachary. You have no right to order me. I sneered and turned around to leave. If they want to continue a love drama, whatever. I'm too lazy to care about them. You. Zachary stepped forward to grab me, but Eileen pulled him back. She realized that Zachary might contact me again if we continue to be deadlocked. Eileen acted coquettishly, saying, I'm fine, Zachary. We need to bury Lucy first. I think this place is good. Let's bury her here. I walked quickly out of the cemetery. Before I reached the gate, I received a call from the cemetery manager. Miss Reed, someone wants the land where your parents' graves are. They have arrived here. They are digging it. We can't stop them. I was shocked. A ridiculously absurd thought came to my mind. Will it be Zachary and Eileen? I hurried back to the cemetery. Then I saw Eileen leaning in Zachary's arms, crying sadly. Zachary, I want to plant lots of flowers for Lucy, so it can be beautiful. In front of her were my parents' graves. Someone dug up the graves by machines and shovels, burying Eileen's dog there. My parents' urns were casually thrown aside. My mind buzzed. I rushed forward, pushing the workers angrily, and shouting at the top of my lungs. What are you doing? Eileen frowned, saying, Sienna, weren't you gone? Why are you back? This is not your family's grave. Why are you in such a hurry? What? Are you eager to see your family die? I was furious, saying, Shut up. Say that again. I'll punch you in the mouth. Zachary protected Eileen and shouted at me. What are you up to, Sienna? Are you out of your mind? I was so angry that I grabbed the worker's shovel like a madman. I wanted to dig out the ashes of Eileen's dog. Zachary stopped me and snatched the shovel, throwing it aside forcefully. He said, Are you crazy, Sienna? Get out of the way, Zachary. I shook off Zachary's hand without hesitation. Crying and kneeling on the ground, I dug the soil with my hands. Zachary was frightened by my appearance. He panicked and said, Sienna, what are you doing? Seeing that I was about to dig up her dog's ashes, Eileen anxiously looked at the Foster family's bodyguards standing aside. What are you all standing there for? Stop this crazy woman. She must hate me so much that she wants to dig up Lucy's ashes. The Foster family's bodyguards quickly came forward and held me down. My face was pressed firmly into the mud. The stones scratched my face, but I didn't care about the pain. Let them release me. I raised my bloody face and stared at Zachary. Zachary, she's so horrible. Eileen pretended to be scared and deliberately hid behind Zachary. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were full of provocation. Sienna, have you had enough of this? You pushed Eileen just now. Apologize to her, and I'll let you go. Zachary looked at me indifferently. It seemed that everything I had done was just a farce. You're dreaming. I gritted my teeth. With a fierce look in my eyes, I wanted to tear Eileen apart. Eileen pretended to be scared, hiding in Zachary's arms. Trembling, she said, Forget it, Zachary. A crazy woman like Sienna can do anything terrifying. You'd better drive her away quickly. I don't want to see her again. Today, she dared to touch Lucy's ashes. Who knows if she will try to kill me in the future? Sienna, apologize to Eileen now. I can pretend that nothing happened. You are still my girlfriend. I will give you whatever you want. If you want the special medicine, I will find it for you. Zachary looked at me, hoping that I would compromise with him unconditionally, the same way as before. I absolutely won't. I tried to break free from the bodyguard's restraints. They were too strong. My struggles were futile. If you don't agree, I will never give you the special medicine. There was a hint of contempt in Zachary's eyes. He believed that I was deceiving him. He didn't think it had anything to do with human life. Eileen noticed my reaction, saying, Zachary, I told you she was deceiving you. Look, she doesn't even have any reaction to the special medicine. She claims it's a matter of life and death. If it were such a matter of life and death, how could she have this attitude? It's clear that she's lying. Apologize to her, Sienna. Zachary took out his cell phone and looked at me indifferently. He said, If you apologize, I will believe you. You indeed need the special medicine. I will have someone deliver it here, immediately. He wanted to threaten me. This trick always works for me. He always uses threats to make me compromise. He threatened to break up with me. He threatened me to obey him. He threatened me not to interfere with him and Eileen. When my family was sick, I begged him. He, who wanted to go shopping with Eileen at that time, nodded hastily. I thought he did care, but he turned out to be perfunctory. He never took my words to heart. Suddenly, I calmed down. The more they wanted to see me compromise, the less I wanted to give in. I remained silent. I didn't speak. In the deadlock between me and him, he sensed my strangeness. He waved to the bodyguards, asking them to release me. Eileen didn't expect that he would let me go so easily. She continued to sow discord between the two of us. She said, I thought you cared so much about your family. You made so many calls to Zachary before. You even made a scene in his office. Now it seems that you are just acting. As she spoke, she kicked open the urn containing my parents' ashes. Then she said, Sienna, you are so desperate for a stranger, but you are so cold-blooded to your own family. Eileen, don't touch it. I was burning with anger. I picked up the shovel next to me and rushed towards Eileen regardless of everything. Eileen was startled by my actions. She fell backwards and sprained her foot. Almost instinctively, Zachary hugged Eileen. He kicked me, causing the urn to fly out as well. The ashes scattered. The ashes inside were mixed with the soil. I fell to the ground in despair, feeling a huge hole in my chest. I was too sad to breathe. Zachary, my foot hurts. Eileen cried out. Zachary comforted her tenderly, saying repeatedly, Don't cry. Don't cry. I'll take you to the hospital right away. I looked fiercely at Eileen, tightly gripping the shovel in my hands and charging forward again. This time, I couldn't get close. Instead, the foster family's bodyguards pinned me down. Zachary carried Eileen gently in his arms. He said indifferently to the bodyguards, Lock this crazy woman in the basement. Sienna, wait. I will definitely expose your lies. I had been to the basement of the foster family's house. Once, I was handing something to Eileen. She deliberately withdrew her hand. My nail accidentally scratched the back of her hand. Eileen cried a lot. Zachary got angry. Then he locked me in the basement. He wanted to teach me a lesson and make me remember that I could only compromise in front of Eileen. In the end, I chose to give in, apologizing to him and Eileen. I tried my best to please Zachary, so I quickly left the basement. This time, Zachary was determined to make me suffer. He ordered the bodyguards not to give me water and food. He took away my cell phone and all the tools that I could use to kill myself. He wanted to make me unable to survive and unable to die. I curled up in a corner and thought of my parents. When my parents were in the ICU, they briefly regained consciousness. They probably knew that they might not have a future, saying they hoped to see Zachary one last time. They want to see what the man I can entrust my whole life to is like, so that they can feel at ease. I called Zachary many times. All he said was, I'm busy now. Let's talk later. But I heard Eileen's voice over the call. I know it's Eileen who doesn't let him come to see me. My parents were sorry for me. They didn't say anything on the surface, but the sadness in their eyes was there. At that time, I strongly wanted to break up with Zachary. When the words were about to come out of my mouth, I couldn't bear it. It was not just because of my parents' special medicine, but also because of the many years of love. I've been in love with him for so many years. Zachary doesn't want it. He won't give my family members such a precious opportunity to survive. He doesn't deserve my love. While I was lost in thought, the door to the basement suddenly opened. In the dim light, I struggled to open my eyes and saw Zachary standing at the door. Zachary's face was filled with guilt and pity. He said, Sienna, I'm sorry. I didn't know that graveyard was where your parents were buried. Oh, it seems he knows everything now. He knows that he wrongly accused me. He knows that everything I said is true. I have never lied to him. Sienna, I'm so sorry. He has been so self-righteous for so long. Now he investigates the truth to find a way to threaten me. It's too late. Sienna, I collected all those ashes and found them a new grave. Sienna, I indeed didn't know they were so sick. Sienna, why didn't you bring me over to them? If I saw it with my own eyes, I would believe you. How funny it is. He doesn't want to believe anything I said myself. Now he's questioning me for not taking him to confirm it personally. I pushed him away and tried to leave unsteadily. Zachary reached out to hug me, but I avoided him. Zachary became flustered. I looked into his eyes indifferently. My indifference made Zachary finally feel that he was about to lose me. Sienna, you have to believe me. I didn't mean to not answer your calls or deliberately cut off contact with you. I will apologize to you. I can do anything you want. I finally looked at him and shouted with all my strength. Anything? Then bring my loved ones back to life. What's the use of an apology? Zachary urgently said, Sienna, don't be so stubborn. Even if I go to find one, I may not be able to find the medicine. Yes. Even if he goes to find one, he may not be able to find one. Even if he finds one, my loved ones may not necessarily come back to life. But there is a great difference between actions and words. I stubbornly liked him for 10 years. I liked him to the point of having no dignity and losing myself. But he is unwilling to believe me. He is unwilling to do anything for a hope. I no longer had the strength to entangle with him. I said word by word. Zachary, do you know that I wish I could kill you and Eileen? In the end, Zachary didn't let me leave. He let me leave the basement. Then he confined me in his room and had bodyguards watch over me. Sienna, I can't let you go. I always feel that I will never see you again if you leave. Zachary looked at me affectionately. He called me and sent me a lot of messages every day, but I didn't answer his calls or read any of his messages. Zachary even wrote me a letter. It was a thick and long letter, but I didn't read it. I threw it outside the door. He knew I was angry with him, so he didn't dare to come into the room to see me. He talked to me through the door. Sienna, I was the one who was wrong before. I can apologize to you no matter how many times. He said he would hold a wedding for me, introduce me to the whole world, and make me his bride. I will treat you well in the future. I will make you the happiest and most fortunate woman in the world. His words sounded so nice. If he had said so to me in the past, I would have been moved to madness. Now I was disgusted. His kind gestures and compensations could never move me. Only after losing me does he want to regain me. It is because he can't bear to let go of me. Instead, it is because he is unwilling. At the door, he was saying those words again. I indifferently said, Zachary, why are you so despicable? After a while, I heard stumbling footsteps outside the door. Eileen must know about the fact that Zachary had confined me. She sent me a message. You shameless person, Sienna. It's all because of your pestering that Zachary avoids me and refuses to see me. You should disappear now. Zachary is mine. I am the future mistress of the Foster family. Do you think he sincerely loves you? You mean nothing to him. Sooner or later, he will know that I am the one who loves him the most, and I am most suitable for him. You lost to me before. You won't win this time either. I sent her a recording of Zachary's sincere confession to me. My text read, I have broken up with Zachary. If you want to be Mrs. Foster, show your abilities. Marry yourself into the Foster family quickly and let me go. I knew Eileen must have a way. She resorted to countless ways before to make Zachary leave my side. Her provocations had no effect on me. I hoped she could cause trouble for Zachary, but I didn't expect Eileen to have other thoughts. She drugged me in the food. I realized something was wrong when I felt dizzy and restless. The man standing at the door had been a bodyguard for the past 2 days. He revealed his true colors at this moment. Miss Reed, I am sorry, but this is Miss Solomon's order. I originally thought he was guarding against me because of Zachary's orders. I didn't expect him to be Eileen's person. I forcefully smashed the plate, holding a piece of shatter tightly in my hands. My palm hurt, blood flowed, but it kept me awake. It's Eileen. What does she want you to do to me? The man took out his cell phone, saying, I should leave some marks on you and take some photos, Miss Reed. I was furious, saying, You want to rape me? Do you know you're breaking the law? The man spoke while unbuttoning his clothes. He said, I am responsible for my own actions. Even if you want to sue me in the future, I don't care, Miss Reed. But don't think you will have an opportunity, Miss Reed. There is no evidence or surveillance video here. After taking the medicine, you will only enjoy yourself this time once. The photos of us will show we are of mutual affection. Miss Reed, rest assured. My skills are super and I won't hurt you. Why are you wasting time talking to her? Hurry up and do it. My eyes lit up. It was Eileen's voice. She's eavesdropping on the phone. Eileen, you incite a rape. You are committing a crime. So, what if it's a crime? I want to see if Zachary will want you, if you have sex with other men. You, a despicable person like you, should be trampled in the mud. Just like your lowly relatives, you should perish too. What are you standing there for? Get to work. The man nodded, saying, Don't worry, Miss Solomon. The man looked up at me as his eyes were full of lust and obsession. As he was about to pounce on me, the door was kicked open. The man outside the door was my boss, Richard Smith. On the day I got my cell phone back, I wanted to call the police. But the Foster family was powerful. Even the police are extra cautious facing them. They could easily make up a story about my loved ones passing away and me suffering a great blow. Then I had a delusional disorder, and they had to lock me up to prevent me from doing self-harm. Zachary had evidence of our relationship over the years. The police were likely to believe him. I couldn't startle Zachary. I had no choice but to send a message to my boss, Richard. The Smith family was one of the few families that could rival the Foster family. When Richard found out about my relationship with Zachary, he once said to me, Don't get involved with a man who has a fake sister. Usually such men are indecisive and emotionally confused.
What did I say at that time?
I told him that I could handle everything, let alone just a man with a fake sister. I indeed can't judge people clearly. Richard had been pressuring me at work. I hoped he could help me this time, considering how much I had contributed to his company over the years.
Fortunately, he did come to me.
He was not here alone. He broke into the Foster family with his bodyguards. He, a young master who was nurtured by a privileged family, had excellent martial arts skills to deal with a bodyguard. He picked me up and looked at my bloody hand. Frowning, he said, "I'll take you to the hospital." I felt uncomfortable all over my body. Seeing him, I was instantly relieved, making it even harder for me to withstand the effects of the drug. I couldn't wait to kiss his lips, saying, "Richard, be a good person to the end." Richard took a deep breath. His voice was somewhat hoarse as he said, "Sienna, don't regret it." I willingly kissed him. I didn't let him off easily, saying, "Whoever regrets it will be a loser." I saw Zachary and Eileen at the police station. Eileen lay weakly in Zachary's arms, crying hoarsely. She said, "Zachary, I feel so uncomfortable. I don't know what I did wrong. Why does Sienna want to frame me like this?" Seeing her pale face, Zachary quickly took out a few pills from his pocket and put them in her mouth. Zachary cared for Eileen so meticulously. He always carried these pills with him. See it now? This is Zachary. On one hand, he apologized to me and begged me to come back to his side. On the other hand, he carried the medicine which another woman needed. I sneered. Hearing my voice, Zachary looked up at me. Looking guarded and angry, he said, "Sienna, what the hell are you doing? I said I would marry you and treat you well. Why are you still treating Eileen like this? Eileen is just an ordinary and innocent girl. Why don't you let her go?" Letting her go? Is she ordinary and innocent? Did all the malice she did to me come out of nowhere? Since she loves acting so much, don't blame me. I took out my cell phone. "Comrade police, this is a recording. I want to report a case. I want to accuse Zachary of illegally detaining me and Eileen of instigating a rape. After dealing with Eileen for so many years, I knew she had too many tricks and scheming. I surely had evidence when it came to her." I turned up the volume of the recording. Eileen immediately panicked. She stood up and tried to grab my cell phone, saying, "Sienna, you're plotting against me." I stepped back, avoiding her hand. The quick-acting police officer immediately restrained her. "Stay still. Don't move." Eileen's voice came through the cell phone, reproducing the scene where I was bullied. "Bitch. You are not worth dying." Her words shocked Zachary. Eileen trembled with anger and accused loudly, saying, "A recording can't be used as evidence." I smiled and said, "Yes, but what about your bodyguard? What about the things you did before? What about the victims? Eileen, you are not in a lawless place. Whatever bad things you do will not be covered up." Zachary finally reacted, looking at me with great guilt and shock. Eileen cried and said, "Zachary, listen to me. I just love you too much. You said before that you would take care of me for a lifetime. You can't abandon me." Zachary finally turned to look at her. The love in his eyes seemed to be all gone at that moment, leaving only disappointment and anger. "Eileen, how could you become like this? You were not like this before. You were so innocent before." "Zachary, I indeed do it because I love you. You can't treat me like this. I can't live without you." Eileen cried loudly. Zachary no longer listened to what she said. He turned his head to look at me. With a face full of regret, he murmured, "I'm sorry, Sienna. I didn't know." I glanced at him and said indifferently, "I won't mediate. Wait to go to jail." After saying this, I planned to leave straight away. I didn't expect Zachary to grab my clothes. My collar split open, revealing my neck. It was covered in love bites. Zachary's eyes are filled with shock. He looked at me in despair, shouting, "Who did this? Who did this?" I shake off his hand and look at him indifferently, saying, "Who do you hope to be?" If it was the bodyguard, this would be evidence of guilt. If not, it would mean another man had taken his place. Regardless of which answer, it was too painful for Zachary to accept it. He knelt and cried, saying, "Sienna, are you never going to want me again?" I smiled mockingly, saying, "I remember I broke up with you a long time ago. Zachary, repent well in prison." Zachary cried sadly. I left without any feeling. Richard was waiting for me at the entrance of the police station. I remembered what had happened before and felt a little embarrassed. I said, "Mr. Smith, thank you, and sorry for the trouble." Richard looked at me and frowned, saying, "Do you want to be a loser?" I coughed and dared not speak. He should not have been involved in this matter. I felt a little guilty for using him and running away. Richard didn't continue. He changed the topic directly, saying, "My family wants me to go to Europe to run a branch. Do you want to go there with me? You will have 3 level promotions in a row and 5 times your original salary." I seemed to have no reason to turn him down. There was nothing here that I wanted to stay for. I looked at him and said, okay. Well, entrusting a lawyer to handle the cases of Zachary and Eileen, I was preparing for going abroad. Zachary didn't have much evidence against him, so he wouldn't be detained for long. As for Eileen, Richard helped me, revealing her past, such as her fake marriage scams abroad and deceiving others as a mistress to gain investment. She might have to be in jail for a long time. This time, Zachary didn't protect her anymore. She can be considered as getting what she deserves. Zachary had been trying to send me messages through others, saying that he wanted to see me, but I hadn't responded. There was nothing left to say between him and me. By the time he came out of jail, Richard and I had settled abroad. He somehow got my phone number and asked, Sienna, you have never visited me. Are you no longer interested in me? You will never come back. I hung up his call directly. Everything about him had nothing to do with me anymore. I didn't expect Zachary to find me abroad. He found out the address of my company and stood at the door. Holding flowers in his hands, he looked at me affectionately with strong longing in his eyes. It seemed that he had a lot of words to say to me. We had been together for 6 years. I always felt that Zachary was born to be aloof and indifferent, and he didn't have such deep feelings for me. When we were together at the beginning, it was just because he thought I was obedient and I wouldn't cause him so much trouble. I looked at him lightly, saying, Zachary, don't come here in the future. I don't want to see you again. But Zachary ignored my words and flew back and forth frequently. Sienna, I just want to pursue you once. Knowing that I didn't want to see him, he didn't bother me. He sat in a cafe not far from my company, saying he wanted to see me. I heard that he was persuading the Foster family to run a branch here. Then it would be convenient for him to visit me. Richard didn't like him. He always said, a buzzing guy, is here again. The others in my company soon knew about his existence. Everyone was betting on whether I would change my mind and accept Zachary. I am the only one who knows that it's absolutely impossible. In the 4th year abroad, I left a message for Zachary. Let's meet. Zachary dressed up like a child. He was so happy that he couldn't contain himself. But I said, Zachary, don't come here anymore in the future. Sienna? I raised the ring in my hand to him and said, I promised Richard. What did you say? Zachary looked shocked and incredulous. It's impossible. You must be lying to me. You love me. I smiled and shook my head, saying, haven't you always wanted to know who'd bit me in my neck? Here is the answer. It took me many years to decide to be with Richard. My relationship with Zachary had consumed all of me. It took too much strength for me to rekindle trust and feelings for someone else. Richard was the best partner in my career and the best friend in my life. He would learn how to cook a dish for me. He would run around to buy snacks for me. He would come to deliver medicine for me in the middle of the night. He would take care of me in every possible way. When I encountered difficulties, the first person I thought of was Richard. At that moment, I knew that the relationship between us had changed. I couldn't simply treat him as a partner or a bedmate. I wanted to go further with our relationship. Zachary could never make me have such a sense of security and trust. Zachary's eyes turned red. Staring at me, he tried to find a trace of lies in my eyes. But he would never have his way. At that moment, all his beliefs seemed to collapse in an instant. He looked at me with red eyes for a long time.
I thought he would say something.
In the end, he turned around and walked away silently. After that day, I never saw him again abroad. Later, I returned to my home country with my children to pay respects at the graves. Unexpectedly, I saw Zachary, whom I hadn't seen for many years, in front of my parents' graves. He became thinner and even a bit hunched, looking very haggard. Richard reacted more strongly than me, saying, What are you doing here? Zachary stared at me tightly. Struggling, he forced out a smile and said, Sienna, have you been doing well all these years? I smiled and said, I am pretty good. When our eyes met, we were both speechless. Over the years, I had my own family. The hatred towards him had dissipated with time. Seeing him, I treated him as a stranger. I was calm and free. Zachary never expected that there would be no trace of love or hatred in my eyes. He smiled bitterly, saying, Sienna, I would rather you continue to hate me. At least, it means you have me in your heart. I wish you happiness. After that, he didn't say anything. He turned around and left with a sense of desolation. Richard tightly held my hand and spat towards the direction where Zachary had left. He said, My wife, of course, is the happiest woman in the world. I smiled and held Richard's hand, looking at my parents' graves. Mom and Dad, I am very happy now. In the future, I will be even happier.